So Baywatch is an adaptation of a show back from the 90s. It centers around a group of lifeguards and their typical duties on the beach in the summer. In this adaptation, we have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson playing Mitch, the old David Hasselhoff role. And in this particular story, a bunch of drugs start washing up on the beach. Now Mitch, being the very protective guy of his beach, decides to round up his team of lifeguards, including Zac Efron, Alexandra Daddario playing Summer, and Kelly Rohrbach playing CJ. Together they'll find out where the drugs are coming from, how to stop it, and also make sure no one is drowning in the pool. And that's all I'll pretty much say without giving any spoilers to you guys. This is a spoiler-free review. I'm just going to tell you what I liked about the film, what I didn't like, hit you with the rating system just like this one, breaking down the elements of the film, and giving you a final ranking. So Baywatch isn't a show I grew up watching with, it was a little past my time, but this has become a trend in Hollywood where they take an old TV show and try to adapt it into a comedy. They've done it with Chips, 21 Jump Street, Baywatch, and this is one I was pretty excited to see mainly because of The Rock. The Rock has become a classic celebrity superstar where anything he comes out in, I definitely want to watch just because of his character and personality. And as of yet, he hasn't really made a bad movie since his days as Scorpion King. I still believe that charm can only take him so far, so I want to know what he can bring to the table to a movie like Baywatch. That, and with the way the Chips movie was handled, I want to see if the Baywatch brand can handle an adaptation to the big screen. So starting off with the positive of the film, like I said, The Rock, he makes this movie all watchable. There's not another actor I can picture being in the lead and still me enjoying the film as much as I did. Even from the opening sequence, you get the idea of what this film is going to be. It's just a guy who falls, starts drowning, and then The Rock goes to save him. Now me just saying that doesn't sound exciting, but the way it's shot and the way The Rock goes into action, it was just very over the top and hilarious and perfectly set the tone for how this film was going to go on to be. Still, even with The Rock being really great, his supporting cast members needed to also be really good to make the film entertaining. I will say Zac Efron, he actually played the voice of reason. He comes in as this washed up Olympian who has a bit of a drinking problem, but he also plays the voice of the audience where we think to ourselves, you guys are just lifeguards, why are you handling police work? And also, why is every case you have is boats on fire, gun chases in the water? He basically voices out the opinions we have as the audience watching it, thinking, why don't you just call the police? Why don't you just do this? Why don't you just do your job and just sit and get a nice tan and do your summer job? The best thing was when these two guys would get on screen, they would have their bantering and bickering. It would just be very funny to watch. The Rock and Zac Efron is a nice pair. And all the other cast members were fine in their job. Nothing really great, but nothing really too bad either. I will say Ronnie came off a little bit annoying at times. And also the character Stephanie sort of faded into the background. She didn't really have too much to do throughout the film. Another positive for the film is if you've seen the trailers, you think this movie is going to be very overblown, very exaggerated. You see all the explosions, the slow-mo, the Rock jumping with a person in his arms. But when you actually sit down and watch the film, it's a very simple story. Someone's bringing drugs to the beach and the lifeguards are just wanting to stop it. The police don't believe them when they're bringing up evidence on what's going on or why this is happening. So the whole story is actually very believable. It's just the way it's shot and the slow-mo added to every action scene is very over the top and exaggerated. Not that that's a bad thing at all. It actually makes it more entertaining and a lot more fun to watch. And the rest of the film is just very suitable. Nothing too bad about it. It was just an okay movie. It was good to watch. The comedy was nice and sprinkled throughout the film. The action, while it wasn't really great because it was a lot of up-close shots, shaky cam, and cuts, was still very entertaining with the slow motion and the explosions. And the overall dynamic of these characters coming together was entertaining and you did care for at least one of these guys. I will say this adaptation of an old TV show was done miles better than the Chips adaptation. This is one I actually liked and can see myself watching again if it were to come up on Netflix or television. Still, even with that said, I wouldn't put it at the level of 21 Jump Street as a great adaptation of an old TV show. Leading me into some of the negatives about the film. For one, it's 2 hours long and that is just 20 minutes too long for this film. Especially in the beginning, they cut a lot of time of just trying to get Zac Efron's character into the team with the lifeguards. This takes way too much time, too much personal drama. It eats away from all the action and excitement of the plot going on. Being it is a simple story, it's still one you want to see how these lifeguards handle it. Not only that, but throughout the film you have other moments where you think this could have been avoided, this didn't need to happen, we could have rushed through this. Even The Rock's character disappears for a few scenes and it really wasn't needed and just dragged on the story. Another negative for the film is even though it was funny, it wasn't to the level of a comedy. I would say this is more of an action film because the comedy wasn't all that well done. There's even a scene in the very beginning of the film where they handle, don't want to get too specific, where they handle someone's genitals getting stuck in a certain place. That scene carried on for way too long and could have just been quickly gotten through. It's just that where they drag on to some things that aren't that funny, and then the things that are funny aren't delivered well enough. Still will say it's a very funny movie, but it's not to the level where it needs to be, wherein it's branded as a comedy. That was pretty much it on the big negatives. Everything else is just little stuff, like the cameos from the old Baywatch cast members wasn't that well done. Like I said, the action is very bad when it comes to the hand-to-hand combat. It's very in-your-face, shaky cam, you don't really understand what's going on, and a few cast members came off as annoying or unimportant. Overall, this film is still a great entertaining watch. It's something you would definitely want to see when it comes out in the summer. The biggest compliment I can actually give this film is it sets a perfect platform to start up a franchise. I'm not saying this film is actually setting up sequels, but it does set up a nice platform for you to build off of. What I mean by that is whatever sequel they plan to do, if they are able to do one, is it could literally go anywhere. You've set up the story, you've set up the characters, you've set up what they can do. Now the story can literally go in any direction. I think that would make for an exciting franchise we will watch every other summer. Alright, so for Baywatch, I'm gonna give action 3 stars. The action in the film was very entertaining to watch, especially added with the slow-mo, but when it came down to a few hand-to-hand combat and chase scenes, it wasn't very well choreographed. Comedy in the film, I'm just gonna give 3 stars because, like I said, it was sprinkled throughout the film, but it wasn't to the level where I would expect as this being branded as a comedy. In fact, some moments were even over-dragged. Drama in the film, I'm gonna give 2.5 stars. Like I said, it's a simple story, just people bringing drugs to the beach and them trying to stop it. Didn't expect too much there. Horror in the film, I'm gonna give half a star just because I said there is one character who gets his genitals stuck, and that's scary being a guy. And suspense in the film is going to get 2.5 stars. There weren't really moments where I was anticipating what was going to happen. It was actually a very predictable movie. Not to say that's very bad, but it didn't help out with the suspense. Casual fans, I'm going to give a B+. Cinephiles, I'm going to give a B-. And critically, I'm going to give it a C-. In the end, Baywatch is good enough to watch in theaters. So this is just my thoughts on Baywatch, guys. Let me know what you thought about the film if you got around to see it. Do you think a sequel is a good idea? Would you want to see more of these characters? Always curious to know your guys' thoughts, but as always, I'm Chris. Take care.